Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about building a new computer and what platform I would use if I was building new versus what platform I would actually go with if I'm building a used computer. So of course we're going to be talking about AMD versus Intel. So let's go ahead and start with talking about the more budget-oriented systems, which will likely be your used systems. If you're trying to get into PC gaming and you're trying to do it on as tight a budget as humanly possible, you're going to be going used. And you can still get some pretty great performance from a used PC, especially if you pick the parts correctly, or at least pick parts that give you a lot of performance compared to their cost, which is always the goal if you have any kind of budget. You're always sort of trying to maximize the amount of performance you get out of your budget. But for a used system, I would actually be going Intel with most of my used builds, and I am fully aware this is a Coffee Lake box, so it is a newer processor. This is actually an 8350K, a processor which you may or may not really believe should exist. But if I'm going to be buying a used computer, I'm going with Intel because the older series Intels, we're talking about your Skylakes and older, or even better yet, your Haswells and older, Haswell, Ivy, and Sandy Bridge, all have pretty good IPCs for the time. And really, even when you compare the IPCs from Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge, and Haswell to modern Ryzen processors, Intel still stands up pretty well. Now, the reason that I do like Intel processors is obviously they blow the older AMD chips out of the water when it does come to instructions per clock. They also tend to overclock quite well. I at one time had a 4790K, that's a Haswell chip running at 4.8 gigahertz on an AIO, so they do overclock quite well, but you can also find them very, very cheaply. I've done several videos in the past now looking at the old Dell Optiplexes that feature an i5-3470 in them, and those chips are still doing great for gaming in 2018, even on modern AAA titles. Not only all of that, but DDR3 RAM compared to new systems, you can pick DDR3 up considerably cheaper, especially used, but even brand new DDR3 is still significantly cheaper than DDR4. So for example, here a quick Amazon search gives us a 4GB stick of DDR3 RAM for $27. You pick up a pair of those, you've got 8GB of DDR3 for just over $50 shipped to your door in about 2 days. And even just scrolling down here, you can get single sticks for about $55, or even this Patriot Viper RAM. You can again get 8GB of it, a 2x4 kit for $55. So you're definitely able to find DDR3 RAM significantly cheaper than DDR4 RAM. And to sort of cap this used PC talk off, there are just way more Intel-based pre-built systems out there, and those tend to go cheaper as a complete package than if you're just trying to part together a system from the motherboard to case, power supply, everything parted together typically ends up running more expensive. So those Dells that I've already mentioned several times and in several past videos, typically I'm picking those things up for about $110, $120, $130 at most, and that's shipped to my door. And that includes absolutely everything: power supply, 8GB of RAM, 500GB hard drive, the processor, everything except the graphics card. And I'm getting those for about $120 to $130. So there's definitely better value, at least from my perspective, in used Intel systems. Now that does change pretty drastically if you're going with a newer platform, in which case I would be featuring a Ryzen system if I was going to be building a brand new system today. I would go ahead and feature a Ryzen system. Now, I may feature a first-gen Ryzen or second-gen Ryzen. It depends on the pricing at the time of purchase. For example, I've seen a lot of 2600s going for right at that $165 mark. And what you have to consider there is that comes with a Wraith Stealth cooler, whereas if you get the original 1600, that comes with a Wraith Spire cooler. So you can probably run the 1600 with the stock cooler as long as your case has decent cooling cooling, performance, has decent airflow, you could probably get a 1600 up to about 3.9 gigahertz. With a stealth cooler, you're probably not going to be able to get all your cores on a 2600 much higher than that, so there is a little bit of a trade-off, and you just sort of have to weigh those things. Not only that, the 1600 is about $15 cheaper, at least last I checked. You can get those for about $150. And I did just allude to it, but Ryzen systems can all be overclocked pretty much across the board, unless you're talking about the brand new Athlon 200 GE. I believe that's going to be a locked processor. Could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that one's a locked processor. But also, the Ryzen B350 motherboards are extremely cheap. You can get a pretty solid one for, $60 or $70, and you'll be able to overclock your Ryzen system up to the frequency you're looking for. On first generation Ryzen, you're probably looking 3.9 to 4 gigahertz at best. Second generation Ryzen, I'm seeing a lot of 4.1 to 4.2 gigahertz. But the platform cost is relatively cheap, and the great thing about the Ryzen systems is if you're getting a 1600 or 2600 and up, you're getting 6 cores and 12 threads. So this thing is gonna last a long time in a gaming PC. You are not gonna have to upgrade the platform part of your gaming PC for quite a long time. Chances are actually really strong you're gonna have to upgrade the GPU side of your system before you would ever have to upgrade the CPU side of your gaming system. So I just feel like Ryzen provides a great mixture of price to performance, as well as a little bit of future proofing with the core and thread counts. And as we see game developers continue to better optimize their games for higher core and thread count processors, especially since Team Blue has finally jumped on that bandwagon a little bit. Hopefully that pushes game developers towards supporting more cores and more threads in their games. I think Ryzen's gonna have a little bit of that fine wine technology where it actually performs better and better in the coming years because of that added support from those devs. So as usual, that is just my take on the issue, but I always do like to kick it back to you guys. Let me know if you're gonna go Team Red or Team Blue, AMD or Intel, whether it be on a new system or on an old used system. Let me know which way you would go down below in those comments. And as always, do the normal thing, like, share, subscribe, comment, those help out a lot. Follow me Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware, and I will see you guys in the next video.